What's up, guys? So I'm going to be doing a Hunter x Hunter discussion, review, talk, etc., etc. And I'm going to name this video just like something generic, Hunter x Hunter review, because people will be scared off if I give like a number or anything like that. But man, first off, this is such an amazing series. I really wish I could be doing like manga chapter reviews week by week of this, because each chapter is packed with so much stuff I can discuss on. Like if you look at Naruto, my Naruto reviews, I can do like 30-minute reviews per chapter on those kind of things. Toriko, 40-minute reviews. And that's when I'm trying my hardest. And I mean, Toriko, my goal is like, I believe that 40-minute video I did was, I started that with a goal of 10 minutes. And so, my goodness, here I am talking about the entire series. I'm hoping this will take 10 minutes rather than an hour. But I want to talk about the whole series, and if you do not watch it or read it, I highly suggest you do. What I did was I watched from episode 1 to 100 online for free via crunchyroll.com. It's legal. And then that's as far as they had gotten with the anime. The anime, it's like about one episode per 3 weeks. And so now I am on the manga. I know one manga reviewer, King of Lightning. I don't like what he does because he just watches the episodes. And for a true fan who really can't get enough of this series, I could not do that. I skipped, as soon as the episodes ended, I could not wait. I went straight to the manga, and I told myself maybe I should wait for the episodes, and then I was like, nah. And then I started reading the manga, and now I am like, judging from how far I've come, I'd probably say I am probably another 100 episodes into the manga, and there's just so much mind-blowing stuff coming out. And King of Lightning, all respect to him, but he's just reading, he's just watching the episodes, and he's behind, and he is yet to, he's already screaming and being amazed at all this stuff, and he's already like 100 episodes behind of where I am in the manga. Granted, those episodes have not come out, but what I'm saying is I highly suggest him to switch over to the manga. You can still keep doing episode reviews and watching the episodes, but at one episode every 3 weeks, that's just too much for me. Okay, it's not worth the wait when the storyline is already out in manga form. Anyhow, without further ado, I am now up to chapter 297, which gives me about 40 chapters left before I am caught up with the series. It's very sad. I think a lot of people just don't have the time to read this or watch it, and that's the case with my sisters. They just aren't in a scenario where they have the time or really interest to watch it, and I've kind of like prodded my youngest sisters who are my youngest sister, who's in elementary school, to watch Hunter x Hunter, and she got into it and she liked it. She wasn't a fanatic of it, but she got to about episode 5 and she really liked it. But again, for her, she has got other stuff to do, swimming lessons, and she just prefers playing around rather than watching it. So unfortunately, I understand, but if you get deep into it, my goodness, you will get to the things that just insane. The plot twist, the amount of incredibleness in this manga, ridiculous. I mean, so worth watching or reading, and that is what's inspired me to just stop reading right there and make this review. And so I am up until 297, so I've done reviews on previous arcs, but just take it from there. 297 is pretty far into the manga, and there's so many amazing stuff to be said. And so that ends my whole spiel on it. Now you can leave if you don't want any spoilers or plot spoiled. So this is my first and final spoiler alert warning. Leave now, otherwise I'm going to talk about the amazingness of the chapter. Here we go. So I strictly want to talk about Netero and his fight with, I believe his name's Chimera or something like that, the Chimera Ant King. And what can I say? This fight was ridiculous. Oh my gosh. First off, I've done the whole, if you want, just check out my last video on Hunter x Hunter, but there's that whole thing with Netero and his flashbacks and why he uses this sort of praying motion, and basically he prays after every single punch, and he can do like 1,000 punches in under a second. And basically like the Chimera Ant King, he's remarking on how wasteful and ineffective it is, because he's using so much energy each time to regroup his hand motion and pray after each punch. And he's remarking on how it's such a wasteful way of fighting, and it's not practical, especially when it's a life or death sort of fight. And obviously, because we know what happened in the flashback, the reason is because when he mastered and discovered that technique, because he wasn't trying to fight, he was simply trying to express gratitude to nature and martial arts, and therefore he was doing that simply as gratitude. And over time, over many years and hard work and dedication, it had become a sort of a thing where it was very powerful, and it just came so naturally to him, and that was his strongest technique. And therefore it's faster for him to just unconsciously do that than just straight up punches, because he's trained it for years. And so there's a lot of like philosophical debate going on while this fight's taking place. I mean, I liken it to Naruto and Sasuke, sort of Sasuke and Itachi sort of, oh man, I forgot what it was called, but that giant skeleton beast behind them. And it's the same thing, and it's very similar to some stuff in Toriko too. But when Netero is using this, he has gotten this huge Buddha behind him, and it's also like, again, spoiler alert to Naruto, Hashirama's attack, where he has that giant Buddha behind him. And so it's visible to both of them, and basically he's like using these movements, and then the Buddha is like doing it on a large scale on the enemy, and he's just doing it so ridiculously quick. There's this one moment where it was mentioned that, and this is so ridiculous, it was mentioned that between the two of them, they were exchanging hundreds of thousands of blows. And so there's all these philosophical debates each time it seems like Netero gets defeated, because frankly the king, there's never a moment where he's okay, there are a few, but each time it seems like one of them's defeated, there's like another philosophical concept brought up. And one of them was like how the king has pretty much found out, judging based simply on his movements and his fights, that Netero has developed this skill through years of hard work and preparation. And then the king is like, well, that's all good and well, but you did this through preparation and hard work through years. I have this skill naturally. That is how great the difference in our power is. And then they go on to fight some more, and it's a lot of that. And Netero constantly retorts each time this is brought up, or some other thing is brought up by, so what? You don't underestimate me. And then he goes on to use some new technique, or just actually, I think what's happening is he keeps using this same technique over and over in different variations and ways. Pretty much this 1,000 hand smash technique. And the reason is, and it was mentioned in the manga, this is the only technique that is strong enough to even damage the king. and so he is already fighting on his ropes here. That's very key to note. And I just really like the part where like he gets his arm, no, he gets his leg cut off, and then without moving he stops the blood flow to his leg, and he's like, give me a break, it's just a leg. And I'm like, dang. And the king's like, once he chopped off the leg, he was like, it's very clear your power difference between us. And then Netero's like, don't underestimate me again. And so I'm like, okay, maybe the power level isn't that different. And by the end of the chapter, I realized, okay, their power level, I mean, it's been referenced so many times. Each time Netero is like pretty much brought back, and it's pretty much like, I mean, very, very clear that they are in different leagues here. He's far outclassed. I mean, from the very first start of the fight, I mean, basically the king was not even trying. Like, he sat down in a lackadaisical position, not a defensive stance or anything. And then Netero was like, he was like, I have to take this advantage, because the king was just too lackadaisical. And he pretty much used his best attack on the king while he was just sitting there. And afterwards, the king just like, he walks out of the hole, barely scratched, and then he sits next to the hole in the same position. He keeps talking. And then Netero does it again. He's barely scratched. They go on fighting. And the king is constantly, this is key, he is constantly saying how he is barely, well, it's, I wouldn't say barely fighting, but he's not trying. He realizes the power difference. And Netero keeps saying, don't underestimate me. And I'm just in shock, because Netero is the strongest, technically, of the Hunter Association, being the chairman. However, that's not honestly the case. Granted that the ending of the chapter was like, don't underestimate humans, and that was said by Netero. But on top of that, we do know that Netero mentioned that he is half the strength he was when he was at his prime. And I don't blame him. He's 110 or like 107 years old. So I believe there's stronger people in this world. Gon's father is one of them, as well as the current usurper who is trying to overtake Netero as the chairman of the Hunter Association, as well as all those like top 10 people mentioned, who apparently never really bothered to get a hunter assessment and boost their ranking, because they're just too busy doing hunter stuff on their own. And so I definitely believe there's a lot of people stronger than Netero at his current state, and that, I believe, is why he made that sort of statement at the end of the chapter. And so very, very cool stuff. And then he gets his arm chopped off too, and Netero's constantly saying, don't underestimate me. Each time he gets like pretty much smacked in the face, or slapped in the face by what has occurred, because it's just time and time again him being outclassed clearly. And so he gets his arm chopped off, but basically it was a sacrifice move. He basically chose to get his arm chopped off to secure the perfect attack, because apparently he has one attack which is his ultimate attack, which is stronger than his current attack, which is the like Hakukushin cannon or whatever. It's called the Hakukushin Cannon 0, but obviously it's very hard to generate the circumstances to use it. And so basically it was like throughout the fight you see like a Gunji board, which is like a Hunter x Hunter version of chess, and it's obviously more complicated because you can stack pieces on top of each other. And so you see this throughout the fight, and it's just the king, like the Chimera Ant King, likening his battles with all the games of Gunji he played with whatever the girl's name is, Kamungi. And the king keeps mentioning how through his games he played on the chessboard, he has learned all these tactics that he has just now realized can be applied to fighting. So in a way, the Nen battles because Komunji, being very frail and weak and only good at this board game, has regardless of this, Komunji is using Nen. I don't know if that's her actual name, but she's using Nen to continuously fight in these games, and therefore, surprisingly, she has in fact taught the Chimera King a lot. And you can see this. There's this one panel where the king was pretty much, he had set the game aside and he was just asking this girl specific tactic questions, and then the girl was like saying like, oh yeah, you don't want to use that tactic, you want to do this instead, this is a better tactic. And the girl was pretty much like telling him how to fight, and the king's like realizing how it can be applied here. And it looked like, and then King kept mentioning how he was applying this, and it looked like Netero had finally found an opening. And then there was like the image of like a needle in a stack of needles where he had finally found it, and then like a chessboard again, and he had finally managed to land this attack on the king after giving up his arm. And then the king walks out saying, barely scratched, well, he was scratched more so than the previous attacks, but he walks out with no real damage, and just again talking about how he's far outclassed. And I would just have to say, great series, Hunter x Hunter. Great stuff. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10 on my rating scale for the overall chapters so far and the series as a whole. I really think you should watch it as a series. I would recommend you guys watch it. And as always, like, favorite, and subscribe. And for those of you who are tired of the Hunter x Hunter stuff, don't worry. I'm coming to an end of the series, which means there might not be any more videos. Besides Naruto, Toriko, everything else is announced. Bleach is on break for the next few months anyways. See you guys later. Peace.